You ever just look up at the night sky and think, what's the real origin story here? I'm not just talking about our planet or even our galaxy, but, well, everything. Today, we're going to dive right into that big question. We'll explore some of the most mind bending theories ever thought up about how our universe began. I mean, it's a question that's bugged philosophers, scientists, really anyone with a curious bone in their body for forever. Where did it all come from? What's the basic stuff that makes up, reality? It's pretty much the biggest puzzle there is. So in this explainer, we're going to take a look at 5 famous theories about where we came from. But then we're going to unpack a 6th one you've probably never heard of. It's called the theory of transformation, and it gives a totally different spin on how a single basic state could become the entire universe. All right, let's jump in. Okay, first up, let's do a quick run through of 5 big ideas you might already know. The source material we're looking at today takes a critical look at each one and points out some, let's say, unanswered questions or potential holes in the logic. So let's kick things off with the theory of creation. You know this one. It's the idea that the universe and everything in it is the work of an all-powerful, divine creator. It's probably one of the oldest and most common explanations out there. But the source we're digging into today raises a couple of pretty big questions it feels don't get answered. Like, why would an all-powerful being need to create anything to begin with? What was it all made from? From this point of view, the really basic how and why are still kind of up in the air. All right, next up is the Big Bang. The idea here is that the universe kicked off with this incredible explosion from a tiny, super-duper dense point. And over billions of years, all that stuff cooled down and came together to form the stars and galaxies we see today. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Our source's critique of this is pretty sharp. It basically says, look, the Big Bang is great at explaining how the universe is expanding, but it doesn't tell us where that initial ball of stuff came from in the first place. Or, for that matter, give us any direct proof of that one single explosion. Okay, let's switch gears to something a bit more philosophical, the theory of Maya. This is an ancient idea that says the physical world, everything you see and touch, isn't the real deal. It's more like a giant shared illusion. But our source pushes back on this from a really practical angle. The argument is, okay, if the universe is just an illusion, it's a crazy consistent and functional one, right? A rock feels solid, fire will definitely burn you, and gravity works every single time. Because we can actually perceive and interact with everything, the source says it's got to be more than just a mind game. Then you've got the theory of permanence, sometimes called the steady state model. This idea suggests that the universe has just always been here, and it's always going to be here, looking pretty much the same as it does now. No big beginning, no dramatic start. But yeah, that idea kind of hits a snag with what we can actually see. Our source points out there's just tons of evidence that the universe is constantly expanding. We can literally watch new stars being born and see galaxies flying away from each other. That kind of dynamic, always changing reality is the complete opposite of a static, permanent universe. And finally, we've got the theory of evolution. But the way it's presented here has a really specific spin. The source talks about it like a straight line of progression. Life forms evolving from having 1 sense to 2, up to 5, with humans at the top possessing a 6th sense. They even use an analogy. It's like milk turning into curd. The critique of this idea is also pretty unique to our source. The logic goes something like this. If evolution is like milk turning into curd, well, once you have the curd, the milk is gone, right? So if humans are the curd of evolution, why is all the milk, all the other life forms, still around? From this very specific angle, the fact that we all coexist seems like a bit of a logical puzzle. Okay, so after running through those 5 theories, our source finally introduces its main idea, the theory of transformation, from Yogiraj Vethathiri Maharishi. And this is key. It's not about creation from nothing. It's about a transformation of something that was already there. The core idea is pretty profound. It starts with this fundamental, all-encompassing thing called the divine state. Now, this state didn't create the universe like a separate project. Instead, it transformed itself into everything we see around us, from the biggest stars to the smallest creatures.
And here's how that whole process supposedly unfolds. It's like a chain reaction. This original divine state, this field of pure potential, it kind of crumbles under its own pressure. It becomes what's called formative dust. Then this dust starts clumping together into these tiny spinning energy particles. Those particles group up to make atoms, and finally the atoms come together to form all the basic elements. So you're probably wondering, how does all that actually work? Let's zoom in on the mechanics of it. It all starts with two fundamental forces that this theory says are running the whole show. Okay, so according to this theory, the entire universe is basically a dance between two forces. On one side, you've got this constant self-compressive force coming from that divine state, always squeezing everything inward. On the other side, you've got a repulsive force that's created by every single spinning particle, always pushing outward. It's this epic cosmic push and pull. And here, we get the actual formula for it. The attractive force between any two things is just whatever's left over when you subtract that outward push from the inward squeeze. It's this simple balance, this cosmic tug-of-war that supposedly decides everything, even down to the exact distance between planets in our solar system. Okay, this next part is really cool. It completely reframes how we think about subatomic particles. In this theory, an electron, a proton, and a neutron, they're not actually different particles. They're just different stages in the life of the same energy particle. The only difference is how fast it's spinning. So as a particle spins, it throws off some of that dust, it slows down, and it kind of ages, going from a super fast electron to a slower proton, then a neutron, until it stops spinning completely and dissolves back into the divine state. And that's what a black hole is. So we've covered the physics, the nuts and bolts, but this theory goes way deeper. It also says that the consciousness of that divine state is baked into everything, and that it's what governs how everything works in a super precise and orderly way. And this consciousness shows up in three main ways. First, there's pattern. That's an object's physical shape and structure. Then there's precision. That's its core character, like a knife is sharp or poison is toxic. And finally, regularity. That's how it predictably changes over time. You know, like a rock slowly turning into sand. The idea is that these three things are in everything. So here's the big takeaway, the whole point of this theory, really. It paints a picture of a universe that isn't just a random jumble of stuff. Instead, it's one single unified system. Everything we see is just a different form of one original source, and it's all guided by that source's own force and consciousness. And that leaves us with a pretty deep thought to chew on. If there's any truth to this idea, it means the laws of physics and the nature of consciousness aren't two separate things at all. They're just two sides of the same coin, the same ultimate reality. So the question it leaves us with is this: what really is the relationship between the cosmos out there and the consciousness in here?